But at the end of the day, we sit down with ourselves as marketers, as individuals. Was I actually acting in the best interest of the people, or was it just about the bottom line? That's where, again, consumer behavior, peer or group influences, as we call it, have a huge role to play. Even in the most dangerous of things, they could get you to do stuff. Marketing is not just the now. You deal with the now because you prepared for it a long time ago. Agility is important. Be able to adapt to that. Creativity is important because, again, we're in the age of AI. Novel thinking is really important. What is it going to look like in 2028, 2030? And what do I do now in order to prepare myself for that?
Over the years, the world of marketing has changed, and today I'm sitting with an expert and we're going to talk a little bit about how we can equip ourselves within the marketing industry for the future. Today I'm joined by Nombulelo Ntakakazi.
CTRL.ALT.SUCCEED is proudly brought to you by Milpark Education, redefining what online learning sounds like. Visit milpark.ac.za for more information.
Nombulelo is a marketing academic and a professional passionate about shaping future-ready marketers. She holds a Master of Commerce in Business Management, specializing in marketing, and is currently completing her PhD in marketing. Come on, girl. Ooh. Tell me about that. Tell me about that journey. Like, how did you fall into marketing?
Initially, I wanted to be a psychologist, believe it or not. So my whole entire degree, undergrad, was on my journey towards psychology. But somewhere along the lines of finishing my undergrad, I ended up falling in love with marketing because we did it in the last year of my business management degree. And we had this really great project by this big brand, and the prize was a scholarship. And so I was like, well, since they're giving me a scholarship anyway, I might as well kind of do my honors. But I had two choices, business management or marketing. And the key decision for me there was, what do I want to spend my life doing for the rest of my life? Is it something that's going to keep me interested? But also, what's going to merge some of my interests? And like I said, because I wanted to do psychology, because human behavior was always my interest, I was like, marketing, consumer behavior seems like one of the greatest choice, so why not actually explore it? So I think during my honors year, I fell in love with marketing and actually finding out it's much deeper than, you know, the usual ads and the stuff that we see on social media that people actually think marketing is. And I was like, this is really interesting. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, like I said, behavior and all those other stuff. So I think it started there in undergrad accidentally because I wanted to pursue something else, and then ended up falling in love with it.
I love that because I think it's currently such a buzzword because of social media. Where back in the day, whenever we thought of marketing, you think about an ad going, would you like to do this? Would you like do you want to keep your house clean?
Absolutely.
And now it's just, I think, been remodeled and it's so advanced. And I'm actually curious to find out from you, as something who's obviously in the industry and you've done quite a lot of work around it. When you think about human behavior and psychology, how does it influence people's buying decisions?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it's tricky and it's complex. I recently wrote about it, actually, is from a brand perspective, is a lot of brands don't actually realize it's not as simple as, I want to come up with a product. Let's say I want to come up with sneakers and I want consumers to buy it. You actually have to think about a lot of stuff from a human behavior point of view. You actually have to think from what motivates the consumer to actually buy this. And then look at other internal decisions, like what are their actual values to buy a simple sneaker? And look at other internal decisions, such as their personalities. Are they a funky individual or are they introverts? You know, that influences something as simple as a sneaker choice. And then you look at external things like family and household decision making. Like, you know, if you see your parents always buying Nikes, you also be like, Nike's the choice to go. You can look at situational factors as well, or your peers. And there's a lot of influences that go into consideration. So we look at it from internal and external factors of consumer behavior. And so I think those are the key factors when we talk about human behavior and psychology and how it plays a role within what what people buy. It's internal. It's you as an individual. What motivates you? What's driving you? How do you learn as an individual? Like for some people, those ads of, are you interested in this might spark interest. Well, for some people, things like humor, you see it in a lot of Nando's ads where humor sparks the interest. Exactly. It sparks the interest. They take something that goes on and it sparks your interest. So that's learning as well from psychology. And then again, the external stuff, it's something as simple as you don't actually think about it, but you have your grocery list down to the T and you go on to your Checkers or your Pick and Pay. As about you checking out, you're looking down the aisle by the tellers and you're seeing, maybe I should buy a chocolate. Maybe I should buy, and that's again, consumer behavior. It's impulse buying. They actually know that once you've reached the end, how can I trick you into buying these last minute little stuff? So there's a lot of psychology that happens behind marketing just so that we can get you to buy as an individual.
Sure. I think what you've just brought up is something that is so interesting, which I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, which is the whole, the conversation around, if I have to niche to a specific thing, what do I niche it to, right? So for instance, and I give this analogy very often, that if you go to the chicken place, right, you can get a cool drink from them, you can get ice cream. They've got other things that complement what comes with their primary products and offering at the time. And I see a lot of small businesses struggle with that because it might not necessarily be product based, but they just want to be known for chicken all the time. And now the marketing becomes so redundant because all we are seeing on these posts and these ads is a piece of chicken. And I'm curious to actually learn from you in this regard. How does somebody strike a balance especially when they don't have a huge product range, like they don't have the aisle for people to daydream about buying the other things, but they've got a few products here and there. How do we bring that together to still influence consumer behavior and have more people spend money in our businesses?
Interesting. The first part is when we look at marketing, there's 5 layers of a product that we know. A lot of people argue there's 6 or whatever. But the core product is what you're talking about. There's the main specific offering, whether you sell chicken, whether you sell a sneaker, whatever. But there's always what we call an auxiliary product. And those are the additional things that you would want your consumer to know about. They come with the product as the main offering. So if you look, again, like if you're saying chicken, there could be other stuff. There could be other additional things. The huge example that I love using with one of my students in general is I love using the idea of perhaps looking at a sneaker, like I said. There could be other additional stuff in the product, such as perhaps there's, made from recycling materials, or perhaps you can create your own color or customize your own sneaker. So there's other additional stuff. But I think with small businesses, the key thing or the tricky part for them is always the question of resources. Can we actually focus on the other additional elements with what we currently have? And the thing with also small businesses is they still view marketing as we don't actually have to, we just want to sell, we want to just use it for sales purposes. So we don't actually think there's necessary for us to focus on the additional stuff. Let's just focus on main offering, just sell it and let's carry on. But I think those additional stuff are important because they catch the attention. They, draw people in as much as they don't even know your main offering. But if they know those additional stuff, by what additional services, what additional offerings come with this main packaging, then that might draw them in. So I think that's the key thing. But again, the resource conversation and whether they see the value in marketing, and not just marketing from transactional sales orientation, but really in building what you're actually offering as a business, from research, from development to that. And I think it catches up with them at a later stage where they need to sell. And they're like, oh, now I need advertising, I need to promote. And I'm like, we could have, actually dealt with most of these stuff ground up. And now you need to kind of make a way on how do I sell this one thing where we could have built it in multiple ways. So
because I have you here with me, we're going to help them build it into the product development. Okay, what are the fundamentals? What do we need to think about in the beginning when we're saying a new product is about to come out, a new thing is about to be released, and we want to incorporate marketing into it?
I think the first question is this really what the consumer wants? Is this really what they want?
That's a
or
good
did you think, because
question.
there's one interesting thing that happened now is Sunlight dishwashing liquid.
Yes.
So they packaged or redesigned their bottle. I don't know if you noticed. So there's there's wavy things on the side, and there's a new element introduced, and it was a huge commotion.
I'll tell you a
on
shocking
social media.
thing. I haven't bought it because I thought it wasn't the right one.
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? That's
Literally.
exactly what happened. And I was out in the mall and I thought this was just social media. This was just happening in other parts of the country. But there were people literally looking at that bottle and they were like, I'm not sure. What is this? What are we doing? Because for them, it's like, this has been the way we've always known it for years and years and years and years. And all of a sudden, there's this redesign and this new element introduced. I don't like the smell. I don't like what it is. What exactly? So I think that's the first question. Is this really what the consumer wants? Have you done that research to find out that there are people that actually want this? Whether it's redesigning, whether it's developing something from scratch, people actually, there's a market for this.
Yeah.
And then I think once you've established that, whether it's research or whatever, then you can move on with the confidence to say, okay, how do I then build this into? And that's where research comes into place again. You would find that within those big sets of data that you kind of have, that, okay, people want a dishwashing liquid, but what else do they want? Maybe they wanted something that smells nice. Okay, that's the additional. Maybe we could experiment with fragrances. Maybe we could experiment with something, or maybe there's people who have sensitivity to the, chemicals in the thing. Maybe we could experiment with additional offerings that is more, sensitive to other people. So I think let's start there. Let's start with actually, do people actually want this? Another example I told my students as well, the whole thing that happened with Twitter and X.
Yeah.
So it was also another question of, who said we want X?
Yeah.
Twitter was fine, the Bluebird was fine. And even now, when you read a lot of articles on social media, it's always like Twitter, or it's always X, formerly known as Twitter. Or it's just, it's so hard to let go from that. Because again, did we really want the reinvention as consumers? Is this something that I actually asked for? And if it's not something I asked for, there's no guarantee that I'm going to buy it. Even if you're going to package it in a phenomenal way.
I'll tell you this. Entrepreneurs are very delusional people, sometimes to their detriment. Because as an entrepreneur, I can convince myself that they just don't know they need it yet.
See? And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because you end up with people that are not buying. You end up with people that are actually not investing it. Because it might be a great idea to you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But is there really some sort of a gap in the market? Are people like, I really want this? And have you done the research? Have you asked around? Have you, And if you haven't done that, then that's a cause for concern.
Is there ever exceptions where you're the underdog and you just came up with it
The
earlier?
lucky ones.
Right?
The lucky ones, it happens. But most of the time, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Another example, controversial, is always Kim Kardashian. All her different offerings. There's the latest offering that she had right now, Spectacle. But again, people are buying. So it's the lucky one. It's not actually that they need it, but it's by virtue of the brand. It's by virtue of who she is that people are buying. So again, it's the lucky ones where it actually happens that there's not really a need, but perhaps maybe.
Yeah. You and I are going to have another conversation on one of our other episodes where we're going to be talking about influencer marketing. And what I'm actually curious to find out, to the point you just made now, is, does it change when you've now attached it to a specific brand and a specific persona that we love? So for instance, we might not like what Sunlight has done now, but if they gave it to somebody we really love, would that change our perspective?
It absolutely changes. That's where, again, consumer behavior, peer or group influences, as we call it, have a huge role to play. Even in the most dangerous of things, they could get you to do stuff, right? Like I'm doing my PhD now and I'm studying, psychosocial development and how with young adults going through their own developmental phases, exploring, experimenting, trying to find out their role in society, and that playing a role in how their mental health, but also having social media influences and the role that they play on their mental health. And these two forces have some sort of an effect on their identity and who they are. And because of that, it does change your perception on something. Like I said, Kim Kardashian could release the worst of all products.
Yeah.
But because it's her, we love it. We buy it. Some of the brands that we even forget. I remember there was this huge campaign, or not even forget, but the ones you buy out of habit, like a Coke as normal. You buy it out of habit. But all of a sudden, they will reposition how they're viewed in the market as a brand. Now it's more of like a lifestyle drink, and you thought it was just a habit. It's just a thing that I've grown up with. I've bought it with my family. Now it's like, this is cute. I love the color. I love everything else. And they ran it with a lot of influences, and that changes people's perspective. Now I'm trying to go and buy it, or whatever. So it does change that. What we call influencer brand fit is such a huge thing. It does change the perception, even though it's horrible. But it does.
Yeah.
It works.
Let's talk about the ethics of this, right? Because so I'm in sales a lot, and that's a central part of my work. And one of the things we talk about is that selling is psychology, right? And the reality of the matter is that sometimes when psychology is involved, we have the ability to alter how people think about certain things. Whether to their detriment or not would be another conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
But how should we start looking at being marketers in a field where it's easier to manipulate people to make certain decisions and to pass certain messages that might not be productive?
And I think that's the way the law is helpful. But again, there's an element that I'm studying. It's called benevolence. It's from the School of Ethics. And it says that an individual acts in the good or in the welfare, the best interests of an individual. So you see that a lot with parents, every decision comes down to I'm acting in the best interest of my child at the end of the day, whether they like it, whether they don't like it. And with marketers as well, that should be the underlying principle in whatever product or whatever communication that you are advertising from an ethical standpoint of view. Yes, you're trying to achieve your bottom line and, get people to buy. But at the end of the day, when you look at Consumer Protection Act and you look at all these different, laws and regulations, the guiding principle, the guiding framework is act in the best interest or the welfare of individuals. And that means actually disclose that, yes, we have really great noodles, but we've seen that in some stats it could cause detrimental stuff. Or, yes, you could smoke, but smoking causes some form of cancer, right? So those are the different elements that a lot of branding comes into play. So it's, at the end of the day, as much as I've got this great product and I want you to buy, and this, works out well, but am I actually acting in the best interest of you as a consumer? And that is the underlying principle. And another thing, which I know we can discuss it later, but just to answer your question as well, is we've seen with the scandal of the influencers who were advertising the, I don't know, was it Russian?
Yes, yeah. It was a Russian scholarship situation.
That whole specific thing. And there's obviously a lot of questions that we can come up with. But did they do research? Did they do whatever? But at the end of the day, we sit down with ourselves as marketers, as individuals. Was I actually acting in the best interest of the people, or was it just about the bottom line?
Sure.
Was I just focused on that? It doesn't matter what it is. That's the golden rule. If you are creating a product, be honest, be transparent about its detriments and its goods as well. And that's also what guides us in research and in academia when we are writing about stuff and knowledge. It's, yes, there were a lot of good, there were a lot of advantages, but there were a lot of limitations as well. And so I think that kind of reinforces the credibility of a marketer to be honest and transparent about those things.
Few questions for you. First one, why should anybody study marketing? And then the second one is, how are we leveraging the rise of AI and tech into the industry? So how do we become tech adjacent as marketers?
Versatility. A lot of the other industries, you look at law and you look at medicine, there's always the strict rule book on things to follow, things to do. Hardly changes within a few years if there's some major breakthroughs and whatever, or new regulations, but the rate of change is so different. If you're someone that's really creative, you are looking for something dynamic and you are versatile, that means you are very quick when it comes to adapting to changes, because marketing is that kind of field. Today we're talking about AI, tomorrow we're talking about something virtual, human beings. We don't know know what the future holds, right? But you have to be willing to actually adapt and move with it, right? Even me as an academic, this year we're starting conversations about AI. Now we're looking into how do we build immersive experiences, how do we build all of that. So it changes with year and year. So I think that is someone that needs to be in the marketing industry, right? And the conversation about human and tech is we've had this conversation so many times. Yeah. And whenever I go on social media, that's the conversation that we have. Even in our institution, that's the conversation we have. And how do we deal with human and tech? And we had a webinar, I think a few months ago, and we had the opportunity of having this really great individual who deals with agencies and everything else. And it all just comes back down to the point of AI is great, right? AI is phenomenal. It helps us a lot. Even in the marketing industry, it makes our lives a lot easy. But it cannot replace a lot of the human skills as much as it can try to imitate it, right? So it still needs your ideas. It still needs your novel creativity. And even if you can give it that really great set of brief.
Like the prompt.
The really great prompt, right? You want it from the T, you want this specific thing, and you want it jotted down. There's still a lot of elements where it's going to hallucinate. There's still a lot of elements where it's going to fall short. And it's up to you as an individual to now fact check and then correct and then fact check and then correct. Because the last thing you want to do is end up like Deloitte's situation where you're now submitting reports and things that AI generates without actually going through that. So I think let's not shy away from the technology. I love it. I love AI. I love generative AI. I love experimenting with the tech. But also fact checking.
Yeah.
Also engage with the thing in and of itself. Check that what it generates is actually what you've wanted. Engage with it, experiment a lot, which is one thing that a lot of marketing gurus are saying. Experiment with all the different types, because the last thing you want to do is ignore it and say, oh, it's really bad. Let me stay away from it. But you have to use it. We're going into that era where it's now becoming compulsory. Do you know how to use it? And then again, the conversation of ethics as well.
I love what you've just said. And I think to the first point when you answered around why people need to study marketing, I always say that marketers are at the center of influence and human behavior.
Absolutely.
And a great example that we also would have seen would be the elections in the USA.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you look at that, you can easily realize that there was a marketing strategy implemented on both sides. Right? Just one worked and won the elections, the other one didn't.
Facts.
But you can see how we are moving to a time where marketers have the power to influence people to make political decisions about where the country is going to be in the next 5 years and who is going to lead people. And that is powerful.
That is influence at its best. That is people who know, again, how to study human behavior. If we look at those campaigns, one conservative, one liberal Democrat. And of course, the Democrats, the strategists and the PR people sat down. They were like, cool. Who are we going to attract? Okay, Democrats. But what's going to make a lot? If we invite a lot of the celebrities, I think that's going to tick with them. And it resonated with a lot of women and people of different communities. And great. It was fundamental.
Marginalized communities.
Exactly.
As well,
so it drew them together. And then you got the conservatives as well, who got all the conservative people, a lot of Christians as well on that side. So it's people who sat at the table and said, we've got human behavior. We want to ensure that these people vote. How do I get them to vote is study what would attract them at its best. And that's power, essentially. Even in our own elections, we can even look back and even just that little bit of tiny period before the elections where things start working, service delivery is fine. But even that period, you see a lot of celebrities within South Africa. They start talking about making the right decisions and everything. Those are marketing people. PR that sat at a table and said, we need young adults to come and vote. How do we attract young adults? Well, they love authenticity. They love things that are responsible, that are ethical. So how do we sway this in the behavior? Or perhaps if we come up with a campaign with this influencer, or perhaps if we get a slogan of like, make the right choice or whatever the case may be. So I think that's marketing of it. People don't actually realize how powerful marketing is when I think of it. They don't actually, it's not, the people think that business, when you look at business management, it's just, let me come up with an idea that's marketing, but it's marketing is in the finance as well, because it helps you determine your price. Marketing is just literally in every single area, and they just don't realize. They just think it's aesthetics and social media.
Absolutely, because I mean, I interface with a lot of people who have amazing products, amazing services. They just don't know how to market them. So therefore, no one's buying. And then their competitors probably not even half as good as they are. But that person knows how to market it. And now they get the sale and they get the big market share. We've just touched on the importance and the power that lies in marketing as an industry, and how, you know, people are easily influenced by marketers that will sit down and put together a strategy. As the world of AI, tech, and things are evolving and growing, how do you think educational institutions need to come in support of that, especially to the academics who are obviously currently studying it right now? Because I can tell you this, the marketing I eventually studied years ago is completely different to the marketing that I'm studying right now. And chances are the marketing that is being studied at this very moment is going to be different in 5 to 10 years. But the same professionals will still have similar, if not bigger, positions. So how do, I think, first one, educational institutions come in support in that. But number two, how do marketers also just continuously develop themselves and their skills to rise up to the standard of where the world is going?
You need like a forward-looking approach. Marketing is not just the now. You deal with the now because you prepared for it a long time ago. So if for example, we can't be talking about AI. AI was a conversation years ago. Pre-2015, 20-ish.
Do you remember they used to call it the fourth industrial revolution?
Yes, literally.
That's what it was called before they called it AI.
And I remember I was in literally entering university. And then they were talking about, how do you prepare yourself? What are the skills that universities need, or whatever the case may be? And it's similar now. So that's why I say a forward-looking approach is important. We're building now as academics in order to prepare them for the future. But I think as marketers, again, because you need to be versatile, you need to always start the year with what's the, the latest trend, what's the biggest marketing thing, what is grabbing people's attention, and what are the skills that I should know? Is it data? Is it whatever? And I love micro-credentials. I love the small certificates and the certifications that you can do just to upskill yourself and see what's going on. Reading, listening to people, different sets of books, just to kind of gain knowledge in those specific areas to upskill yourself. Again, what is it going to look like in 2028, 2030? And what do I do now in order to prepare myself for that? So I think that forward-looking approach across both as marketers and education institutions is very important.
And what I'm also learning a lot from what you're saying is just marketers' ability to be agile, because I think AI is exponentially growing to a point where I don't even think the developers know what it will do in a year from now. You know, it's unraveling itself. And I think the people that are going to be at the forefront of the best and the biggest marketing campaigns are the people who are agile enough to just adapt to the new thing and run with it immediately. You spoke about trends, and I kept thinking to myself, you know, there is, as somebody in business, right? I don't like following trends, because I'm like, I want to be different. I want to be like, do you know what I'm saying? I want to stand out, etc. And I do fully have appreciation of trends and how they kind of bring you into the eyes of people looking at those trends. What's the balance there in terms of following trends and maybe setting trends?
The huge thing is, I always view trends as, these are the things that people are talking about and are interested in right now. That is the trends for me. These are the things that consumers want. These are the things that they're interested in. And I think when we look at setting the trend, I think that's a very hard thing to do. And it also still goes back to consumers, because they're the ones that set what's the talk of the town right now, based on their different interests, based on what they think they value at this present moment. I would say, because I'm a marketer, I have to go and follow and hear what are people actually saying and what do I do about it. And then consumers are the ones that set it for us. And even though you don't follow the trend, you could actually find out that you set it in different ways as a consumer. And in tiny little bit of elements, you are adhering to some form of culture, different elements, even though it's not to a big extent of trends.
Yeah. There has to be a level of data literacy from what you're saying. Like just being able to analyze the data.
Discernment as well is important. Discernment is important. For sure, if I'm a consumer and I'm looking on social media, this is what's going on right now. But again, is this what's valuable to me right now at this current moment? As a consumer, is this, or am I just doing it? I remember, because I used to follow a trend, and that was the last time I did, and I was in primary school, and there was a color blocking thing going on.
Yes, I did one of those.
Yeah, there was a color blocking thing going on with the pink pants and the yellow shirts
The
and
plastic
pumps.
pumps.
Love the plastic pumps, you know? So again, we followed the trend because they liked it, we loved it, we were there for it, and then it just phased out.
Yeah.
But again, it's consumers, they set it, and then other sets of consumers, they follow it, and then something else comes up that we can follow. So I think the discernment, I wish I had discernment at that age to say, yeah, this color combo, this pink and green that you're doing.
It was rocking though. It was rocking. You know what I would do? I'd even put like, is it a Pandora? Like a hat.
You see, it does work out.
Make it look to make it look spectacular. What are the top skills that you believe, or characteristics, for a better word, that you think every marketer needs to have?
I think, like you said, also agility is important. Be able to adapt to that. Yeah. Creativity is important because, again, we're in the age of AI. Novel thinking is really important. Yeah. Ideas that are, genuine and everything else. As much as you're going to run that through AI and it's going to give you a nice proposal and data set, but you're all going to sit at a table and you're going to brainstorm, what can we actually do about this? Is it valuable, right? So it's agility, and we've got creative thinking. Problem solving is very important as a marketer. You are dealing with things on a daily basis, and it doesn't matter what marketer you are, whether you're on the PR side, whether you're on research, whichever industry you fall within the phase of marketing, problem solving is very important. Analytical thinking is important because you have to be, again, that discernment, analyzing what's important, what's going to work, and how's this not going to work, analyzing those different sets of data. This is telling you this is telling you this type of information. That's really important as well. And I think another one that I can say to a lot of people is just big thinking. And I tell that to my students. No idea too small. In marketing, it's trial and error. It works, great. It doesn't work, well, we'll try again next time and we see what works.
That's powerful, because sometimes working with marketers can feel risky.
It is, like I said, because it's all about, great, you've come to me as a marketer and you want, especially with small businesses, you want an idea or whatever, or you saying, I want to have a lot of sales or conversions or whatever. Great. Now we come, proposal set, but I can give you a probability. I can't give you a guarantee that, people are going to respond. We can try this out, right? So I come with you, pay me the money, we try this out, right? Based on calculations, based on data. But again, if you have a 30% increase, you might get it 15%, right? It worked, but not at the rate that you wanted to. Let's take it. What do we do? Let's find out what went wrong. Let's fix it and let's carry on. Let's do something else. So I think that is, again, the game. That is marketing. There's no way of staying and just be like, I'm not going to touch anything. If I don't touch anything, that's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen.
The last thing that I wanted to touch on as we wrap up the conversation, when we talk about marketing and psychology, one of the things I'm very fond of is color and what it communicates.
Ooh, yes,
and what it says. Like if you look at growing up, they tell red is for danger. That's just the color. And we see a lot of businesses. I mean, a lot of businesses that we grew up knowing, like to Sunlight's points, they're rebranding and they're changing colors. I don't know if if it's a color philosophy thing, but I want to touch on maybe from you as an expert. Number one, the key importance of color in the human psychology and our sales process. But number two, how we should also start thinking about color or thinking of color in the way that we position and brand our products.
It's very important. So I teach this module called visual communication. We do that a lot. And there's this, color harmony, this wheel of color. And it has different associations. So you've got green, and a lot of people say it communicates safety, it communicates whatever. And then you've got white or yellow, it's harmony or anything along those lines. And there's a neurological reasoning behind it on why our brains somehow, when they see certain colors, they're associated with specific feelings. Yeah. And the great thing is that marketers tap into that. So when you look at Ferrari with red and the yellows, it's not just the danger, but it's also like the luxury or fire or thrill, exactly, right? So it's that association. But then when you look at other brands, like Sunlight, it's green. You think ecological, you think environment, you're thinking all those different kinds of things. Clean, exactly. So that's important, because the last thing you want to do is have the wrong color, because then I'm going to associate it with something else. Maybe, I don't know, having a weird combination of stuff. Yeah. Because then I'm going to associate with something else, an individual. And again, there's a neurological reasoning behind it that you can't specifically get in touch with. So what neuroscience would then do is they would do a pilot study of people and they would put them together, whether it's 30 people, whatever. They say, let's test our new packaging. That's what Black Cat, I think, tested out, because I think they changed their packaging. And it's not working out well, but that's a conversation for another day. But that's what they did. So they put on these devices and stuff in the eyes and let it test with individuals and see where are their eyes going to when they are looking at it, or the colors, what is it eliciting? Are their heartbeats moving? Are their pupils dilating? What's actually going on, right? And because of that response, they able to see that, maybe the brown color, maybe this color is not going to work because this person is scared or anything along those lines. So I think that's really, really important. And again, tapping into using but the right kind of combination that will be able to elicit the response that you actually want, right? So if you want your brand to communicate warm and fuzzy, so you would look at the right kind of combinations. Or if you want to have, like, for example, a kiddies brand as well, as much as a lot of parents are moving towards more neutral colors, and girl,
I'm doing green, blue, and pink in the same outfit. Okay,
there's a lot of parents that are moving into the brown. They're like the brown and like the neutral and everything else. In some areas, it does work out quite well, but in a lot of areas, the pink and the pop-up colors communicates children. It communicates that specific brand.
Playfulness.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's it's choosing the right combination to elicit that kind of right response that you want.
I love that, because what you're basically saying is it's not about picking the right color, but it's about picking the color that gets you the response that you're looking for. Yep. So do you want me to feel the thrill? Yep. Then you give me colors that represent the thrill. Do you want me to feel warm and happy and joyful? You give me those colors. Exactly. That is so profound, because I think when people are curating their products or people are thinking about going into the market, it's always like, I need to pick the right color for this. And there's no right color.
There's no right color. There's a combination. It just depends. For example, there was this brand that I worked with, a small business, and the owner, it's a hair care brand, was trying to look into moving towards, all demographics. She was tailored to African hair. Now she want to go into 4A, 4B, all types, right? But her branding or her colors was just black. So she just used black and white. So one of the suggestions that came up was using a combination of different colors, whether it's a brown palette, whether it's a lightish brown, different hues to kind of, bring up the concept of unification of ethnicities. Yeah. That brings across as, this is inclusive. This is tailored. It's not just for black, white, colored. It's for all types of kinds of hairs. So it's those things. It's what do you want people to feel when they see? And that's important as well on social media. If I'm looking at your Instagram page and I'm looking at your colors and there's no coordination, there's no alignment, what response are you trying to actually get out of me? Again, something simple as sunscreen, because that's top of my mind because I recently changed my sunscreen.
Yeah.
But when I look at all the sunscreen colors, it's always a white and a yellow.
Yes.
There's the orange E. So the association is always the sun and, warmth, heat, and everything else. So those are all intentional decisions when it comes to eliciting that response.
Yeah. I wanted to also just touch around brand, social media. But we've got another episode with you that I'm excited to chat to you about. So we're not going to jump into it in this one. We're going to jump into it then, because I think the color theory goes far beyond just the logo, but also the outfit.
Ooh,
So I'll share some amazing experiences that I've had in terms of the color theory, but we have to wrap it up here for this conversation. Thank you for joining me. I can't wait for our second conversation. This has been absolutely amazing. Nombulelo, everybody. Thank you so much. And this has been awesome. We'll see you guys in our next podcast episode.
Control.ALT.SUCCEED is proudly brought to you by Milpark Education, redefining what online learning sounds like. Visit milpark.ac.za for more information.